Alright, before we get into the bulk of this video, I want to preface this by saying the topic I'm about to cover today is a wild departure from what you'd normally expect from a photography channel, especially mine. It's going to be awkward, political, unfortunately divisive, but it's something I feel compelled to cover as someone who has worked with models, especially as I'm disgusted by the silence among the photography community. There are a few standing up, but all credit goes to the women involved. Yeah, I am of course talking about sexual predators using photography as a means to assault models. And while this topic is currently in the spotlight this month, let's not forget this has been a long-standing issue in the industry, including some local photo meet clubs in my area. And even years ago as an amateur photographer, before the Me Too movement, I knew of some shady shit going on, including rumors of Terry Richardson long before he was blacklisted in the fashion world. Today, however, I will be specifically addressing the allegations made against Jason Lanier by several models and a few assistants travel companions he's worked with in the past. And I want to be completely transparent about this. I am biased for reasons I'll get into later in this video, but I will be playing devil's advocate at times, if only to preemptively respond to some victim-blaming bullshit I've seen in other videos and comments. And I'm not saying I will always blindly believe someone when they accuse people of wrongdoing, and I know there will be people that say we have to have no right to comment when we aren't even involved ourselves, but we're in the unique position where we have hours of videos that span years to review. At least the stuff that Jason hasn't already deleted. Ultimately, the courts will decide if a crime occurred, but I am partial to the ruling of most courts. I just want to be transparent where I stand and leave no confusion for you. I know we can make the argument for the virtue of being a pacifist and neutral in the situation, but while everyone in the comment section circle jerks around the idea of sitting on their hands, these women are being forced to come to their own defense in the wake of Jason Lanier naming them as pawns in some Ken Wheeler conspiracy to launch a coup against the mighty Fedora Nation. And yeah, it sounds pretty fucking stupid when it's condensed into a paragraph instead of an hour-long video, but that's kind of the point. While everyone has zero issue attacking these women for voicing their opinions and experiences on YouTube, almost none of them acknowledge how, regardless of who you believe, Jason dropped those women's names when only Jade had called him out. And again, while people either stand for or against these women, photographers are silent for the most part. Even though most of the drama has died out with Jason finally staying silent, leaving only fringe drama seekers to make shit up in his defense, I still want to talk about this instead of pretending it never happens. Because whether it's Jason Lanier, Marcus Hyde, Terry Richardson, or your local photographer with 20k followers or whatever, they all benefit from other photographers staying out of the drama. So sorry for the late post, but I actually wanted to watch and rewatch people's videos before making this. Ultimately, I just want Jason to, at the very least, apologize to these women instead of promoting victim-blaming rhetoric, because I could give a shit about cancel culture or the state's involvement in the matter. I've heard the FBI is involved, but without any way to verify it myself, I don't really care. What I care about is putting my money where my mouth is, and instead of commenting on a model's video or an Instagram post with some stupid "not all photographers" post, I want to actually shine a light on the grimy practices of people like Jason. Even though he didn't break any law, it's still grimy. Because regardless of how this turns out, if you watch these clips from Jason and completely ignored when shit like this happened in past videos, you are ignoring the growing pile of bullshit that fosters conditions for rape. Again, I'm not saying Jason raped anyone. I don't want to insert words into anyone's mouths. I'm simply saying that shit like this doesn't just happen. As Skylar King pointed out, just because someone stopped short of breaking the law doesn't mean they did nothing wrong. Because they definitely were not professional at all, which is the heart of this. And if it turns out the FBI is involved after all, I don't know why anyone thinks they'd keep the public updated. Seriously, I've dealt with police investigations where I was the victim, and those fuckers didn't even have the decency to tell me the case was closed, ultimately leaving it up to me to take it to civil court myself, where I won, by the way. So don't think the justice system holds the key to some infallible truth. They don't. And again, I'm not promoting some idea of the Wild West, but use your heads. I want to give a quick summary to the situation for those who don't know. So skip to the timestamp I'll have somewhere here, where I get to my thinky thoughts on this giant fedora wearing cock. But before that, though, let's get into some recent and relevant news that ties into what I just said for those too dense to realize the value of publicly outing creepy photographers and supporting victims. Earlier this week, an actual famous photographer, Marcus Hyde, was exposed for demanding nudes from models before agreeing to a free shoot. Is that a crime? No. Is it a total fuckboy move? Fuck yeah. He said he wanted to know if they were worth it before agreeing to any shoot, but here's the thing. He was selective about who he did this to, with most models being afraid to come forward until this one did, opening the floodgates to other models coming forward with similar experiences. Eventually leading to, as far as I know, one story where someone could have made the case that he used photography as a means to rape a model, considering he got them drunk to the point where they couldn't consent. So yeah, while none of us have heard an actual rape claim from Lanier's case, that doesn't mean this shit is innocent. It is still rape culture. So if you're one of those guys talking these women down for not being composed or well-worded or even just smiling when they give their accounts, you are creating an environment where victims are afraid to come forward. Just letting you know. This photographer I'm talking about, Marcus Hyde, by the way, worked with Kim Kardashian, who just the other day publicly cuts ties with him, though not outright naming him. But she did make a point to describe a work environment that was strictly professional. So what's the truth, right? Was this guy a piece of shit, or was he worthy of being a photographer to the stars? Here's a better question. Do you think he'd be stupid enough to pull that shit on everybody, including a celebrity with more social capital? It's just a question you should think about, considering Jason made that one video, a model testimonial. All that proves is nothing happened with that person. I don't want to get too off topic, especially when I haven't even dug into the topic at hand, but it should be obvious this is an extremely charged subject that I'm honestly doing a disservice by condensing it into this video. As I said, I am biased here, but instead of pulling a Jason and presenting some conclusions as matter of fact, or just repeating the points, giving some PR-friendly response where I don't fucking cuss so much, I'm gonna give my own take on the issue with my thinking and the questions that I've asked. As I said, I was hesitant to make this video since I really don't want to come off as some white knight. But again, after posing this question to Instagram, several models have messaged me saying that this topic is important. And even though none of them have worked with Jason Lanier personally, they all have stories of people like him. And us photographers never fucking talk about it. And regardless of how much time has passed since the updates from these models or Jason, or how unique the situation may be, the excuses used to defend Jason's actions, from gaslighting to slut-shaming, are not. So I don't doubt there will be parallels between Jason's case and future predatory photographers, as well as those who have passed. But that's the funny thing. I'm having trouble believing there aren't more videos here on YouTube on the matter, either telling photographers not to be creeps or giving models a heads up on what to look out for. You can go ahead and check for yourselves if you don't believe me, but I looked up and there's nothing save that most recent video from Chelsea and Tony Northup, though that video is more about photographers protecting themselves than how models can stay safe from these types of photographers. So yeah, I'm honestly trying not to throw shade, but we need to be critical about what we're saying, especially with how heated discussions can be about film versus digital and Nikon versus Canon. I feel like we can't pretend to be supporting a safe community when we centered the conversation about abuse on protecting photographers from allegations instead of models from abuse and exploitation. And again, I'm going to repeat that because I'm not trying to be malicious. I just, again, repeating this, don't think we can be supporting a safe community when we center the conversation on protecting photographers from allegations. instead of protecting models from abuse and exploitation. Predatory photographers are going to exist. So let's not pretend this toxic environment isn't entirely born out of a misunderstanding, because it's not. Okay, it's not some shoulder touch. I know that tends to be the conversation that comes up, is it was innocent, or where do you draw the line between flirting and assault? But that's honestly not the fucking case in most of these cases, and it does a disservice to what's actually going on if you're going to conflate sexual assault to flirting. And if your flirting gets confused with sexual assault, maybe you're the fucking problem. So a quick summary of events leading up to this video. Jade Galloway made an Instagram post openly accusing Jason Lanier of being a certifiable piece of shit. Not a direct quote, but I don't think she's gonna really mind the summary. Jason, instead of him giving a PR-friendly response that could have easily been handled by his speech pathologist, we get an hour-long video blaming Ken Wheeler of manipulating these women who he says came from broken homes, essentially destroying these models with facts and logic, right? In the form of arguments that he's a nice guy and how they're all mentally ill. The literal meme of a fedora wearing neckbeard. I can't fucking make that shit up. And if you're mad at me for that summary, spare me. I don't have Emily's educational background, but it's not hard to see when a person is talking a whole lot without actually saying anything. We've all seen our friends bullshit in high school presentations, and cheaters deny they've cheated when they've been caught red-handed. In response to this video from Jason Lanier, the YouTube channel We Stand Together is born with several videos from past models, assistants, and travel companions basically standing up for themselves. It's taken down for a brief while, most likely due to the Fedora Nation, but then again reinstated. Now, quick note before moving on, Alyssa O'Brien's video is nowhere on this channel. Although there are people that are showing clips of her giving detailed anecdotes and grouping everyone together, Alyssa made her own separate video and kept it on a separate channel. I'm not sure if this is due to an NDA or her being afraid of legal action from Jason, but she never actually names him throughout the video. And again, it's obvious she's talking about him, but she never says his name. She does, however, give timestamps for videos on his channel that are quickly deleted by Jason. No one, not even Vince Revolution, who did a summary on this crap, has made note of this. This is already incredibly fucking suspicious, but then Jason put out 2 model testimonial videos, one of which he later deleted after the subject of those videos, I believe it was Kira Lawrence, didn't approve of the message he was trying to sell. That's important to note because context is everything here, and while video can be used to exonerate an innocent man, it looks like Jason is trying to use these clips as proof that he's innocent while deleting the videos they come from. And not so quick aside, I can understand him wanting to delete videos out of some spur of the moment spite, not wanting to promote models who are talking shit or falsely accusing him, but he still has Irene's video up on his channel, and she's made it very clear she supports these women. So even if I play devil's advocate and say he doesn't want to promote these women after slandering him, why does he have Irene's video up? Especially after his second video making a huge deal of this.
She doesn't like that video's up. She sent me an email asking me to remove the video because she didn't feel comfortable having her name associated with me because of these ladies. No, what Irene wanted to do was get the video removed because she doesn't like the fact that it shows her not using Flash. Irene wants to talk about me. She brought a model to the shoot wearing lingerie, not me.
My money is on him being a petty SOB, in case you're wondering, because I don't actually think it's some big mystery. I actually tried looking into the subject when I found out about the controversy, remembering videos I'd seen in the past and how often or how common it was to see some viewers commenting on how Jason was being a creep, and thinking some photo blogs probably covered this if this was actually happening, because this couldn't just come out of nowhere, right? Especially since this was kind of a common feeling from his videos that you could find in most internet forums before even the shitstorm. I only found one blog by, and I'm gonna butcher this, but Tai P Geek, which would normally mean a bust, but there was something there that gave some credibility to the claims being made against him. which was funny because up until this point, I had only heard about the allegations through Jason's initial The Truth About Jade Galloway video. And I really want to drill this in. Although I believe Jade is pretty awesome and social media is a godsend for giving a voice to the disenfranchised, I think Jason's own defense video is the reason this blew up, not Jade's post. Because checking dates, there's evidence Sony dropped Jason as early as May of 2018, and I really want to stress that because here's the fucking thing that people keep overlooking in all this. May of 2018. I tried looking for some video where he addresses Sony dropping him along the way, because you'd think, knowing the hate boner that these two share for each other, this would be something that Jason would want to address as either true or false, but nope. I find no mention of it outside of this blog, which you would think is a big detail for someone who was essentially put on the map because of how hard he sold the Sony brand. Back when their batteries were a joke and they weren't updating firmware to warn you about the dangers of third-party batteries. Back to this timeline. After this, Jason puts up yet another video attempting to defend himself against more models, a bigger YouTuber photographer as well, and the photo blogs he previously ignored. He then deletes the same video that same day, claiming that he was receiving death threats, which he suspiciously doesn't share. And I say suspiciously because he's just aching to paint himself as the victim. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, he deleted that video, but not before I got a copy.
I am the victim here. Ken is the distribution channel for all this. Sierra is the little recruiter. Think of Sierra as the recruiter. Now you may think I'm crazy, but again, I'm gonna show you proof. Sierra is reaching out to anyone who's ever worked with me, asking them if they have anything, any dirt to share on me, any bad stories. She's pushing this companion narrative. She sent this text message to Kristen, seeking dirt, asking Kristen to join her.
Okay, so sorry not sorry for that rambling. Let's talk bullshit for those of you just coming from that timestamp. First, I have no personal ties to Jason. I just watched a few of his videos earlier when they were the only things that came up when you typed in Sony. I stopped watching him around the time that he made that video on the Southern Plantation. Maybe this is my own personal hang-up, or perhaps I really don't get that racism masked as Southern pride. I realize I probably was being overly sensitive about wedding photos being taken in a place where black people were historically raped, murdered, and brutalized by old-timey racists, but I spent the last bit of my understanding on that Ethiopia exploitation, photojournalism videos. Second, since his defense fund names Ken Wheeler, let me say there's no evidence of collusion between him and I, since I know that's a common thing to point out. Personal feelings to the forefront, I can't vibe with a guy who calls Einstein an idiot and talks about magnets like he's Winona Ryder on Stranger Things. From what I've seen, a lot of these models don't fucking like him either. That's not to say some of them haven't talked to him or reached out, nor does that evidence really discredit them or their claims. Remember, outside of Jason, a lot of these women are unknown to us. They're not supermodels with some giant followings, despite opportunistic assholes claiming Jason made them as such. He doesn't even shout out their Instagrams in every video. If they were wronged by Jason, of course some of them would reach out to this guy who openly flaunts his Jason Lanier hate boner, instead of risking being shut down by one of his 300k subs. Who else safer to trust on this platform than the guy who openly hates him? Again, some of these models openly don't like Wheeler, especially since it's so fucking clear this guy is an opportunist who's probably had wet dreams of a scandal like this. I get it. That said, why would Ken make anything up when the truth has a fucking bow on it? He was, after all, the first to discover that Sony dropped Jason Lanier back in May of 2018, probably smashing that refresh button, if we're gonna be honest. Because, what the fuck, dude? I know it's easy to write this off because it's fucking Ken, but Jason waited until July of 2019 to address this, attempting to say he was suspending his deals with the sponsors to try to spare them any fallout before admitting that the allegations were why he was dropped.
Because what happened is that this false allegation resulted in an email being sent to Sony. No substantiation at all. And yeah, I lost being a Sony artisan because of this. Didn't do anything. So you guys want to know the truth? That's what happened.
Why, if you're truly this adamant about defending yourself via YouTube videos, do you wait over a year after Jade Galloway's post and wait even longer to admit you were dropped for this reason? So maybe there is some truth to the FBI investigation, since that part of the story has changed. I believe the phrase Jason used in one of his videos was lying by omission. And I'm sorry for jumping around here, but going back to those photo blogs he accused of tarnishing his name without waiting to hear his side of the story.
As we speak, I've been notified by many photography blogs and photography news outlets that they're planning on running stories about this. I've offered these outlets the opportunity to get an advance copy of my video so they can see my side of the story before they run with it. These outlets have decided to not do that. So if you're watching this, most likely those stories have already been published. I told them that it would only be a day or two, and they are deciding to run with the stories regardless of what I have to say about it.
Jason completely forgot to mention the part where they reached out for comment first, even offering to delay the piece a couple days. And instead of taking the time to write out a statement or get his speech language pathologist to help out with a very PR non-response, he instead tells these people to wait and essentially demand they sit through a fucking hour-long YouTube video full of circular logic, sexist bullshit, and obvious half-truths. The simple act of refusing to give a statement that would have taken a lot less time than recording and editing a video is at best childish. And the funny thing is, I'm sure this whole controversy wouldn't be as big as it was if it wasn't for Jason making that video. At least not this soon. And about that video, I will admit there were some things that made me give pause and give Jason some credit, since there were some holes in the story and narrative, but that's only when you look at it in the context that he wants us to buy into. For example, he posted a screenshot without context, quoting Jade Galloway as saying he tried nothing until she was of age, as though that completely exonerated him.
In her initial allegations, she implied that because she was a minor that I must be a pedophile because I had, according to her, done things that were inappropriate prior to her being 18. Well, someone challenged her on this, on her Instagram post, on her allegation, and she very quickly contradicted herself. And she wrote, and I quote, "Because I was a minor, he didn't try anything until I was 18 and legal." So as is the case with lies, when people tell lies, they usually contradict themselves. Jade has done that. Therefore, any claims of me being a pedophile are completely and utterly false.
The actual quote was from that post that brought this whole thing to light. It reads as follows. I worked with Jason Lanier from 14 to 19. In that time, he flirted, touched my butt, and complimented me in ways no boss should. I actually went to this post and tried to find the commenter who called out Jade, and I couldn't find it. But when I tried to zoom in on the screenshot Jason used, I saw the exchange summarized, no different than any other commenter who tries the gotcha moment on these women. It reads, "You've been working with him for 5 years. Why are you suddenly unhappy now and didn't leave years ago?" Jade's response, "Because I was a minor. He didn't try anything until I was 18 and legal. When I was 14, I was too stupid and unaware of what jailbait meant. But once I was legal and he could hit on me without feeling guilty, I realized what he meant when he said it 5 years prior. This is why people don't speak out, because everything that is said is questioned." So yeah. Kinda stupid to include a screenshot that completely ignores the jailbait comment. Obviously it doesn't prove it actually happened, but it is interesting it isn't addressed in a comment Jason wants people to believe proves he's innocent, especially since it implies he was sexualizing her prior to being an adult, which I know can be a gray area in the world of photography, but is exactly why it makes sense that Jade would think the photography world is full of perverts and pedophiles. Because the conversation isn't, "Hey Jason, did you actually tell this to a minor?" It's, "Hey Jade, did he touch you?" Or, "Hey Jade, why did you wait?" So regardless of why Jade might have deleted that comment, or if I missed it and it's still there, I think it's important to note how young these girls are and what they are up against. Jason Lanier has this huge following of people who have zero issue with openly calling these women mentally ill for breaking down on camera when they talk about being preyed upon and abused. Yet, when victims like Jade stand tall and defiant, they're not believed for some bullshit or another. And the sad thing here is that being mentally ill is used as some argument against sexual allegations. They're not. Mentally ill people are more likely to be victimized because of dumbasses like those here, using it as an excuse themselves instead of analyzing what's actually being said on both ends. Either way, regardless of how Jade came off in that video, and I will be focusing on Jade since I take way too much time going over everyone, it is important to stay focused and realize Jason was trying to reframe the narrative, as many of his viewers are as well. This has not been a straightforward accusation of rape, but rather one of grooming and sexual harassment when it's not assault. Because while there is some ground to say we don't know the whole story, I think the sentiment leans more towards the girl's favor than Jason's, as far as he's been the only one changing the story. Let me be clear, they are not calling it grooming, but given everything Jason and these women have said, I think there's a case for it. So let's go over it. Quick definition of grooming from the NSPCC UK website. Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. It's important to note none of these alone are illegal, but they are patterns found in these types of relationships where a younger person is taken advantage of by someone a lot older. Essentially what Jason wants us to believe Ken Wheeler is doing to these women, which I see as projection for a reason I hope is obvious to everyone. So what are the steps in grooming? They don't have to take place in this order, but step 1 is identifying the victim. What was that point that Jason kept drilling into us in that first video? A lot of these women come from broken homes and are mentally ill.
A lot of the people that went around with me were, between the ages of 18 to 22, 23, in that age range. They typically have the most free schedules. A lot of these people they've never had actual real jobs. I'm not trying to be mean or rude, it's just the truth. Most of them haven't had a real job.
Ignoring how that doesn't mean they're lying. Why is this now an issue instead of when you traveled with them? How do you manage to find these people, and why would you keep working with them if this was an issue prior to the allegations?
It's because of all these things. This is a crazy industry. The kind of people who can fulfill a role where they travel around and have no obligations, which enables them to have a free schedule and travel, aren't the kind of people who hold down normal jobs. So then when they get into a community family environment, that one person can very quickly make the entire thing toxic. Over the course of time, you do find people who struggle with mental issues, who are unstable. And what's happened is they have completely destabilized my life. And that's why I have ended it.
Step 2, gaining trust and access. So like modeling, workshops, and travel. Obviously nothing sinister, but it is a step.
The vast majority of everyone who has exhibited major problems are the people who have traveled with me extensively. The longer they travel, the worse their behavior gets.
Step 3, gaining importance by fulfilling a need. So he's a big YouTuber who could help build an audience for these women, which is funny considering he hasn't, but that doesn't stop him from acting like he's some hotshot who could make people famous just by shooting with him. Step 4, isolating the victim. I'm gonna go real in depth into this one, so hold that thought. Step 5, sexualizing the relationship.
Before you leave, get my number.
Okay.
You have my permission to harass me.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this should be obvious. And finally, step 6, controlling the relationship. This could be financial via positions of power or through emotional manipulation. And if you're having trouble understanding that last part, if you're a guy and never had someone explain that to you, just think of it like your girlfriend is refusing to speak to you until you figure out what you did wrong. I know that seems childish and playful, but that is emotional manipulation, as the alternative is being a fucking adult and talking about the issues at hand instead of making a game out of it.
Getting her to go with me on the trip to Europe was nothing short of a miracle, and it was our last gasp effort. I remember sending her a text message before and we spoke, and I said, hey, Kristen, if you're not going to be able to travel with me because you're having issues, which I understand why you're having them. I got her apartment, out in the area in which we live so we could potentially do office work together. But she was always in LA, which is a good 2 hours for me. Fast forward to the trip, and I said, hey, if you're not going to be able to do this, I'm not going to be able to continue paying for your apartment. That was the truth. I think that's what motivated her to actually do the trip.
Again, these steps alone don't have to be in order, and alone they aren't exactly legal, but they are commonly found in grooming situations. On that thought, I want to go back to step 4, isolating the victim. I want to pause on this because it seems like a common thing in the We Stand Together videos is several of these models did not talk to each other after they had enough of Jason's bullshit. Many of his victims said they felt their experience was isolated and they did not want to come forward for that reason. Others wanted to reach out but didn't while they were just violated. Many still believe Jason was telling the truth about other models. In fact, if you actually watch Joyce's video, she mentions the only reason she's coming forward is because of him making that video attacking Jade. So it's not hard to see that being a uniting moment. If you're all isolated thinking this only happened to you since no one else is speaking out, then suddenly you realize you're not alone. This sort of thing is bound to happen, especially in many of these stories. He's presenting a different picture to the public when behind the scenes things are a lot more sinister. Remember Joyce's video about how everyone is talking shit about how she had no proof? Well, after David did all the hard work, it's obvious to see, as many of these models have said, he has a pattern of harassing these women while posting about how great their time has been, essentially gaslighting many of the people he has worked with.
So I called him on the phone and I said, Jason, what's up? I mean, it's been 2 days and my kids are all sick. I've sent you my bank statement. You see it's in the negative. Like, that's my money that you're holding from me. Can you please send it back? And he said, if you want your money back, you're going to sign this NDA. And I said, are you serious right now? Are you telling me that if I don't sign your NDA, you're blackmailing me? You're not going to give me my money back? And then he said, he didn't agree to that. He just said, Joyce, get on and sign this NDA. And I said, are you F-word kidding me? If this was Kara and your boys and I was holding your money, I'd send your money back immediately. Before all of this happened, he posted on Facebook that I was taking a break. He wrote this beautiful, sweet message about me and how I was going off to do other things and how he was going to miss me, and it was some kind of like dedication to me, and he posted a picture of me.
And if you're having trouble figuring out what gaslighting is, think of it like a southern plantation tour, ignoring that their laborers were in serious need of workers' rights. But that's the thing about being gaslit when it's done successfully. You won't realize it's happening until long after the abuser got away with it. That's something to think about if you're one of those why now people. Because one person stood up and did not give a shit about any possible backlash, which I believe is only now dying down as attentions shift and David posted those small compilation videos. And again, seeing as this guy got this footage from videos Linear hasn't deleted yet, I hope everyone who made a point to harass these women as liars and gold diggers realize an apology is not enough. You still contributed to a large part of rape culture by shouting down these women just because they didn't present in the way you wanted. They're models, guys. How do you expect them to have the same knowledge or software to put together a video like Jason's? More importantly, shouldn't it be a shame how obvious it is they had no help from a photographer putting those videos together? It is a bit of a reach of me to say that, but it is something I noticed regardless of if they wanted someone else's help. Again, Jason essentially had the same amount of proof as these women did, yet everyone in the comment section was doing these mental gymnastics to paint Jason as the victim in clips where nothing happened.